All right. Well, let's get into it then. Let's roll for initiative here because
Oh,
I got to start with what got you guys on this epic quest to begin with because we heard so much about obviously your respective, childhood and how the two of you had connected. But where and when did the Amazing Race come into the picture? And did you always have this mentality of wanting to race, let alone together?
yeah. I mean, I think, who hasn't seen The Amazing Race when they're a child and been like, okay, so that's going to be me.
Yeah.
Um, and then actually 7 years ago, sorry, Nick and Mike, we also applied together 7 years ago. But we were just like not in the right headspace with each other. Like our lives didn't align quite as much. And then during COVID, I think when everyone was like, I can't even leave my house. The like fantasy of watching The Amazing Race and being like, I'm ready to go to all these places and I want to do anything and I don't care how hard it is. At least I'm not in my house. I think then propelled us to be like, we should really do this. And then we applied together. Yeah, like this last time, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And interestingly enough, too, if we're, talking about like history and sort of where it all stems from, actually, two things that they didn't actually talk about on the race or didn't edit into our edit, which I think was okay because it was really about our sort of friendship over a decade now. But like two major things that I think were impetuses is like actually I had an Amazing Race birthday party when I was like
I
we
also,
didn't talk about it,
no,
but I'm gonna post the picture soon. I have this picture of me running around San Diego having an Amazing Race birthday party when I was like 13. But it's because I used to watch with my mom, who was like a
Hmm.
big CBS sort of like Survivor, Amazing Race. We used to watch together. And my mom unfortunately passed 3 years ago.
I'm so
And so I
sorry.
feel like this was also to honor her and, to do something that, you know, she sort of instilled in me. She was somebody who like loved games and loved like, doing crazy stuff. And so I think again, like when we applied 7 years ago, of course we wanted to be on it, but now felt like there was more like spiritual stuff behind it too.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss, but I think it makes it all the better when we fast forward to the finish line. And
Yeah.
of all places in a Miami Marlins stadium, the two of you become $1 million richer.
I know. I've never walked
never
into a
heard of
stadium.
that. Don't know who
Yeah.
they are. Sorry to those
The
fish.
Marlins.
Sorry to
Yeah.
those fish.
Well, let's talk about the big catch that you landed here because I mean the scramble, I know you would vocalize like not gonna get too confident here, but like it seemed like we got into a familiar setting for the two of you, which is you got out to an early lead and you never relinquished it. What was your mentality throughout the day? Did that confidence grow every task that you went through?
Yes,
Yes.
it definitely did. But also what's really interesting is, and I'm sure you maybe have heard about this, is that we stopped down in the middle of the lake. There was a huge storm that blew through
Mm.
Miami. And so after the speedboat, it was like production needs to stop. It's dangerous
It
to be
was like
outside.
flooding
Miami
everywhere.
was
Yeah.
like under a storm.
Underwater.
Yeah, yeah. And so we stopped down for a long time. And honestly, I think the mental thing that happened over those couple days was really helpful to
Mm.
finishing up the race because of course you have this insane adrenaline on the last leg, the one that is $4 million, and being able to be like, okay, stop. Like there are actually things in this world that we can zoom out and be like, you know what? This is an incredible opportunity. Like Miami's underwater and like
It's
people's
not all
lives,
about
like it's
us.
not all
Yeah.
about us. And so we were able to like put our egos aside a little bit going into the rest of the race, and I honestly think it helped us a lot to grow our confidence and be like, we got this, let's stay calm.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I also think like it was helped by and it was also scary because we knew, Anna was not the strongest swimmer and we had sort of a understanding this was going to be a lot of water stuff. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we were like, well,
No,
Han is going to
we
smoke
Mm.
us. Like, oh my God. And so I think we were nervous. But then I think once we had done like the hoverboard challenge, and realizing like, oh, actually, we're from San Diego and we can do anything we want in the water as well.
yeah.
And then except for sail, except for sailing.
To
But
be
yeah,
fair,
I
even
think
Han couldn't sail, so.
No, it was like
where
we
was the
were
wind?
yes.
Where was the
It's
wind?
like we were on the Truman Show. Like we were on a set where it's like the wind just didn't exist. So like
And
we were
but
like,
and
hello?
yet there are all these like 8-year-olds in boats being like, and we're like, what? Like they are whipping around. I don't know. It was so strange.
It was
But
crazy.
um, but yeah, after that, I think not my hair. After that, we were like, we had a pep in our step, I think, after that.
Well, let's talk about maybe what put the pep in your step to begin with, all the way at the beginning of the race. And this is something you vocalized even on that first pit stop is like, we don't have big arms, but we have big hopes.
Hopes.
Realistically, what do you think your expectations were of your performance going in? And how much did especially that first half, right, where we keep seeing this commentary of like, listen, we're killing it right now and no one's clocking us. How much did that live up to the expectations you had going in?
Yeah, well, but what's interesting is it's interesting you bring up expectation because we keep talking about that we went to therapy together, which is like before the race, which was maybe the best thing, best advice we could give any racer ever. It's not normal that you like go to, therapy with your friend, but it was so crucial to our race because we were talking about how do we relate to each other? How do we communicate? And really, how do we not expect certain
Anything.
things, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
removing people talk about what do I have? What do I give to this race, right? But it was actually for us about breaking down things, right? Removing expectation
Right.
is the
Like
key.
if Carson's upset, it's not my responsibility actually to make him feel better. He's gonna self-soothe, I'm gonna self-soothe, and then we're gonna know that like we're doing our best for ourselves, which is in turn good for the other person. And so releasing that expectation of the other person to be any type of
Right.
way
Like when
was like,
I'm stressed, I need you to talk to me like this, right?
no.
Like no, like I can't expect you to act or be or, talk or, compete the way that I want you to, right? You're a different person than me. And so yeah, removing that expectation, I think was and we did talk about when you talked about expectation, it was really about like placement.
Yeah.
We went into this being like, you know what, if we do go home, we did a lot of mental work to be like leg one if we go home. We
Yeah.
we imagined that. What would that be like? How would we feel? And what would we try to prepare ourselves for
Yeah.
any situation?
And I think like, we root everything in like some fantasy thing. So
Of course.
meeting all these people for the first time in LA, you couldn't talk, you could only size each other up. It felt like the Hunger Games where like you were seeing these buff people like Alyssa and Josiah, like immediately we were
Oh my
terrified of
God.
them. Brett and
Brett and
Mark,
Mark,
like
Pops and
we were
Jeff,
like, yeah, we were like, these people are,
Nick
they
and
have
Mike.
everything that we don't have, right? But then in the same way, but you're like, but I'm the girl on fire. Like, like I'm Katniss Everdeen. She doesn't have everything everyone else has. She has her own thing. So we had to then like remember, like, okay, but what do we have? We have fun. We have our brains. We have, and just remembering like the Amazing Race is not, a marathon, literally. It's not a gun show. It is just
A
what it
strategy
is.
game,
It is
yeah,
just
yeah.
what it is. And we didn't
Yeah.
know what it was going to be. And I felt really lucky that like, a lot of things we were prepared for also, I think, just through gaming and liking to do stuff
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah, talk to me more about that because I do think that, when it comes from the specific mindset that you were talking about, which is a lot of like role-playing games or gaming in general, it gives you that mindset for problem solving, of adapting, of improvising. What would you say is sort of like the secret to your success? What were some of the skills you felt most directly translated to all the great stuff you were able to do on the race?
Yeah, I mean, I think being adaptable, like being flexible, like especially in Dungeons and Dragons, like we a weekly practice in not maybe achieving like it's such every game is emotional, right?
Hmm.
But particularly Dungeons and Dragons, it's about how you communicate, how you talk. There's so much emotion in it. And every week we're coming up against things that are like, oh, we're not doing as well as we thought, or we didn't defeat the big boss, or we didn't, go through this dungeon the way. We have to create alternate routes. We have to
Yeah.
figure out new strategies. And I think that a weekly practice in expecting the unexpected
Yeah.
was helpful.
I also think like utilizing silliness as a weapon,
Yes,
honestly. Like
yes.
Mm.
that was a superpower for us because it's disarming for other teams. I think that's probably why we didn't get any U-turn votes at the U-turn vote. It is, it keeps us on in good spirits,
Right.
keeps hope alive. I think silliness, some us being silly actually is us taking the game really seriously because
Yeah.
in D&D, silliness, like when it's at its best, is when you're with a group of people who are having a hilarious time, and then 10 minutes later, you might be sobbing because a boss killed your friend, right? And I think, having that dichotomy of both of those
Yeah.
things, um, knowing that silliness is really serious for us actually
Yeah.
really helped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I imagine that really came in handy when you hit that low point hard in Bulgaria, and
Yeah.
you wind up
Yar.
you go from being 3 hours behind the most, recent team to coming back and finishing in first place a couple of legs later. Talk me through your thought process through that very stressful day and how you were able to sort of like mentally recover as you kept moving through the race.
Yeah, we have this mantra, going into the race, but also particularly once we found out it was the season of surprises and we knew things would be thrown at us that were unexpected. We said, use our obstacles as opportunities, right? So when you say like, how did you recover? We actually were like, we don't need to recover. We can actually use this to our advantage. I actually think our brains were not only like, oh, we're at a deficit now and we need to get back to feeling good about ourselves. It was like, no, we were thought we were out of the game, and now we think we can do anything.
Hmm.
Now we're even more energized. We're even more grateful. We're even more, holding on to this as tightly as we can, right? It didn't take us from here to here. It took us from here to there, which
Yeah.
was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think you need to be behind in the Amazing Race at some point. And for us, we were lucky that it was in a leg where, frankly, Nick and Mike probably could have gone straw by straw and found the thing faster than we would have gotten there. But yeah, I think it's a lesson in like coming back. Like you can't ever, 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 ever count yourself out because the Amazing Race surprises you. It was a season of surprises, probably not even in a way that like
They
the
accepted.
producers
Yeah,
expected it to
yeah.
happen. And I think, yeah, like having that experience of being like, okay, we can come back from this, we can come back from anything, was really helpful. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, you talk about wanting to bring that silliness into the game. A famous face once said The Amazing Race is supposed to be fun and good. And
Oh yeah.
I think you guys, a fellow Green team, and I think you guys absolutely brought that. And I think, it resonated incredibly with audiences. I've seen so much praise for the two of you throughout. I'm sure you have as well. And count me into the throng, too,
Oh,
because I think just getting the chance to watch you guys truly live out your passions, showcase your personalities in such a way and have it pay off handsomely in $1 million and then some was so heartening to me. So thank you both so much for, everything that you brought to our screens, for bringing your sterling personalities to me today. I'm so looking forward to seeing everything you have moving forward. See this, souped up D&D show you've got
Yeah.
going on with the
Yeah.
funds. It's been an incredible time to watch your campaign over these past
oh,
12 weeks.
Oh,
you know just how to talk to
no, like
us
I'm getting
for
Talk
real.
emotional.
nerdy to me, baby.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Like, thank you so much. It
Yeah.
it means the world coming from you, and yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the pleasure was all mine. Seriously, guys, thank you. I know this will not be the last time that we're talking, but for now, I wish you and yours nothing but the best. A huge congratulations, guys.
Thank you so
Seriously,
much.
Thank you so
all the
much.
love. Have a great day.
You
Thank you
too.
so
You're
You
the
much.
too.
best.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
Bye.